Welcome, my darling pretties, to our Beyond the Dawn of Business podcast for pretty, empowered female entrepreneurs. It's time to step into your power, pretties. Lift each other, support the squad, and choose a life filled with the autonomy and freedom to live your dreams. I'm your host, Dawn Beth, owner and founder of Beyond the Dawn digital business brand and agency. My coffee is hot and my eyelashes are on, so we are ready to go. Hello and welcome to today's episode. Today I want to talk to you about ADHD, the audacity of ADHD and potential autism, and what that sometimes means for entrepreneurs. The reason why I have decided to even talk about this kind of conversation piece is because of conversations that I've had recently with my friends who are entrepreneurs or small business owners, or actually those friends of mine that are high flying in corporate careers. We all have a very similar yet personal version of the way our motivation and our brain and our genius kind of works. But let me just kind of caveat this. The whole conversation that we're having, the debate that we're currently having about neurodiversity in its positive state, I know that that's not everybody's experience, and I know that obviously this is sweeping generalized statements from people who have a certain understanding of their own way of thinking, of the way that their behavior has been changed themselves. It's definitely not kind of like a widespread thing to say that it's for every single person. But we open up this conversation so that you can self-identify in terms of if this is something that resonates with you. We're not suggesting that everybody should, that everybody who has ADHD or anybody who thinks that they may be on the spectrum in terms of neurodiversity. We're not suggesting that you definitely have this. No. But we are talking about it. We're talking about it in an open and honest way, in a way that feels comfortable and safe for us, which is a beautiful thing, because if you rewind even a decade ago, conversations like this were not happening. And what I love about it is that quite often we're talking about this in a positive state, okay? So we're talking about, because we could all sit and give you the things that happen to us inside of our brain that could be considered hindrances. We could give you the times of procrastination where inside our mind it is a complete traffic jam, but outside it looks like we're doing absolutely nothing. We could tell you about the times that environment actually changes how we feel, our emotive response to stimuli around us, how textures freak us out, how, having different auditory triggers can completely melt our brains into being no use for us whatsoever. Like, all of these things do occur, and these are the things that are spoken about all of the time, which is why I love talking about the positive side, because for many people, there are some positives too. One of them, the ADHD urge to take on a unbelievably, incredibly ambitious new project or task in a industry that you have absolutely no experience in, with the full expectation and belief that you'll figure it out along the way. And then you do. That in itself is something I think is audacious, but it's audacious in such a good way. That audacity to believe that actually I don't need to have all of the answers. I will figure it out. That self-belief, that moment of understanding where actually there's no reason at all to worry about anything other than just going for it. Now, the path between deciding to go for it and actually going for it, the path between deciding to go for it with that level of audacity, that level of confidence, that level of self-belief, I'll just figure it out as I go, and actually getting to the end point where you've achieved the thing, those are two different things. But do we find ourselves often in situations where other people would be very, very concerned, where other people would overthink, where other people would chew the fat? They would sit and they would evaluate and they would consider and they would strategize and they would try to figure out all eventualities. I mean, we do all of that as well, which is lots of fun, but on a different area. Quite often we will sometimes almost blindly jump in, the exact opposite of risk aversion, which has been noted scientifically to be one of the biggest things that can give an indication of somebody being a success. Being able to make quick decisions, being able to take risks, feeling confident and comfortable in going for the thing whilst it's under your nose, not letting it pass you by, has been proven to give you an opportunity and maybe a little bit of a head in front of other competitors to be able to go ahead and do that. Okay. So this in particular makes me giggle because I love chatting to the people who I know. I'm not going to start naming people, but the people that I know in the industry that are quite happily and publicly discussing their neurodiversity and the opportunities that are available to those who don't fear that boldness, who perhaps, because maybe our brains are wired slightly differently, because our perceptions are altered, because we have a completely different set of rules that we have, lived with or masked through or kind of grown throughout our time, to neurotypical people. Maybe. But that audaciousness, it comes from a sweet place. And I think this is where there is some kind of fondness for people who have this, who openly discuss this, that go for it, because it's not coming from a place of arrogance. And I think you can sense that, the difference in energy of somebody who is maybe kind of humbly audacious in their belief system of themselves. Like, it's not coming from arrogance. They don't think that they're better than anybody else. I certainly don't think I'm better than anybody else when I do these things. I just have belief in myself that, I've been thrown into so many situations throughout my time, and maybe this is part of it also. You are thrown into situations where you don't understand the underlying subtle social rules, and you have to pick things up as you go. You have to be a sponge. My mum always used to say to me that she loved her grandchildren. She loves her grandchildren anyway, but she absolutely adored the stage of when they were kind of like toddlers into preschool, because she said to me, oh, they're just sponges. They just pick up everything. They're just learning everything. And it's adorable. One day they don't know how to do a thing. And the next day they're walking along, doing the thing, saying new words, understanding the world in new ways. Every single minute they've picked something else up and they're learning, and they're just sponges. Well, I feel like to some degree, the neurodiverse people that I meet never kind of move out of that toddler stage, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. I'm not going around calling all of my ADHD and autistic friends childlike, although we do have this beautiful opportunity to tap into our inner child, and I'm not saying that that's not there either, but that kind of toddler sponge stage, like we can walk into a room and sense the room, we can read a room, and those skills that may have been masks, they may have been coping mechanisms for social situations that we didn't fully understand. They could have been all of these different things. Who knows? Like, we could probably do tons of research into where these different nuances of our lived experience wove the opportunity for us to be adults who see opportunity, who aren't scared of risk, who will audaciously walk into potential, even when there is no guarantee that that potential will create return. Like, we might never know where that comes from, but I absolutely love that we do that. And I love that we're having a discussion about that. And where other people fear to tread, oh, I couldn't possibly get into that industry because I don't have the skills or knowledge or, information and blah, 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 blah. So I'm not even going to try. That's a block. 9 times out of 10, anybody who has any learnable skill and anybody who holds any nurtured skill has picked that up from somewhere. It's been taught to them or they have learned it from somewhere. That's important for everybody to know. It doesn't matter whether you learn on the job. That's what apprenticeships are for. It doesn't matter whether you're a lifetime learner and you put yourself through training, which is exactly what I did. Like, it doesn't matter. You will figure it out. And what's really good as well is you'll probably figure it out whilst also doing it, whilst also building things, whilst also making money. That's exactly how so many of us have found ourselves in a position with successful, but also really fulfilling and joyful businesses, because we didn't wait. We're not the ones that sat around and said, I need a certificate for this before I can go out and do it. We were the ones that were doing it and learning it, being honest about our skill set, and allowing people to still work with us at the right level under the right circumstances whilst we learn and grew. I know that 90% of my entrepreneur friends who identify as being neurodiverse have allowed themselves to do the thing whilst learning the thing. And often there is no better way to do it. Such a wonderful conversation. And I wonder if when you're listening to this, whether you can sense this, because this isn't just a neurodiverse thing per se. This is something, it's a behavior that can be tapped into. Like, I wonder if you listen to this and you're thinking, oh, Dawney, maybe I do overthink things a bit too much, or I wonder if I do overanalyze, or my imposter syndrome gets the best of me and I do feel like I need some sort of physical evidence that I can do the thing before I actually go out and do the thing. I need a certificate or a degree or, this kind of thing. Interesting for you to explore and consider where you sit on this kind of discussion. Okay, completely interesting. But what I will say is that I have built a client listing of more, I would say, multi-passionate people than I ever expected that I would. And that's because when I first started helping people, quite often the advice that was out there from big gurus that everybody was watching and listening, they were saying, stay in your lane, have one specific niche, have one specific thing that you're doing. And I've never been able to do that. My entire business is a full sweet shop of opportunities. So people would come to me and they'd be like, actually, I want to do a bit of this, and I want to do a bit of this, and I want to do a bit of that. And I am being told that I need to pick one and hone down and, do the thing. And don't get me wrong, that's still excellent advice. You should master one thing before you move on to another thing. But especially people who are neurodiverse or multi-passionate in their kind of behavioral style find it incredibly difficult to stick to one thing. We need to jump. I read an amazing article and it said something along the lines, I had a quote at the beginning, and it basically said, if you're neurodiverse and you have a job that you're putting off, start a secondary job. And when that gets to a critical point, go back to the first job to procrastinate from the second job and continue to lily pad between those two things forever and forever until the world dissolves. And that made me laugh so much, because often for both myself and for our clients who find themselves to be on that neurodiverse spectrum, we actually do need to do that. We need to hop. We need to lily pad onto different things. I know myself, if I have a varied workload in one day, that is wonderful for me. I need to be able to keep it fresh Don't stick me on a job where I have to do the same thing over and over and over again for 12 hours, because by the time I get to hour 2, I'm bored. I need to move on. So if the girls give me my schedule and it's like client meeting, going out for coffee with one of the team members to discuss something, coming back and doing social media for this thing, writing emails, doing a podcast, having a photography shoot, whatever. It's all different things, and I get to skip from all of the different parts of my interest, and that is just great for me. Am I tired at the end of the day? Absolutely. But have I fully kind of been able to spread my wings and jump about on all the things that I'm multi-passionate about? Absolutely too. And it's so, so good to do that. So think about that. Are you audaciously able to allow yourself, do you self-identify with that? Are you able to allow yourself to get into something new, something that interests you, even if you don't believe you have all of the information right now? Do you trust yourself to figure it out along the way? And let me know in the free group how you felt about this and whether that's something that sounds like you, because all of the conversations I've had recently with my friends around this, almost every single neurodiverse friend has identified with that. And actually, it's been a massive perspective and mindset shift in the positive side of things that's made people go, okay, so that is why I've been able to do this, or that is why that opportunity came to me, or that is why I did this thing and it worked out for me at a later date. It's a really, really interesting conversation, and I would love for you to join us in it.
If you're loving our Pretty podcast, come on over to Social Pretties, our online safe house and sisterhood community. It's a safe space where female entrepreneurs connect and thrive in a warm, welcoming fold of pretty amazing women. You'll find an easy redirect in the description, and I can't wait to see you in there. And depending on where you're listening right now, we would love it if you would click subscribe or follow so that you can be the first to know when our new podcasts come out.